Welcome back to today's video, where today we are going to be talking about my October reading wrap-up. And I'm going to answer the most challenging question, the thing that has been haunting your guys' brains for the past month. Did I finish my TBR? I don't know. You're going to have to wait and see. At the beginning of this month, I said that there were 9 books that I wanted to read. Was it 9? At the beginning of this month, there was 8 books I said that I wanted to read. Did I actually manage to get through them? Well, let's just see. I'm going to put this handy dandy little list here. Here are the books that I was hoping to get to in the month of October. Let's talk about whether or not I actually finished them. There was one book on this list that I said I was the only book that I had to get to this month. If I didn't get to anything else, that was okay. I just needed to make sure that I read this one book. And that book was Immortal Consequences by Ivy Marie. And I did in fact read this book. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I did actually do a reading vlog on this book and one other one that I'm going to talk about in a second earlier this month. So check out that video if you want to hear more about my thoughts on this book. I did end up giving this a 3.5 star. I think it is the perfect introduction to a series. But I think that it needed a little bit of work with some of the characters. And then right off the bat, we decided to go off script, and I picked up The Floating World by Axio, which I also gave this book a 3.5 star. It started off as a 4, it dropped down to a 3.5 just because I felt like she just never went deep enough. There was so much more she could have done with this book, both just like description-wise and even just with the characters and the story. And it was just missing something. Again, check out my thoughts. I did The Floating World and Immortal Consequences in a different video. So the next book that I ended up jumping into after I finally finished The Floating World was another book that I was very highly anticipating reading. Not so much because of the book itself, but because finishing this specific book meant that I would be finishing my physical TBR. Technically, I had set a challenge for myself at the beginning of the year to read the 50 books that I had on my physical TBR, and this book in particular was the last of them. Yes, I have bought some books since, so I still need to go and read those, but out of the initial 50 books, Cruel is the Light was the last book in that pile, and I finally got to read it, and it was a DNF, which is kind of a bummer. The first book that I started for this challenge was a DNF, and the last one that I started for this challenge ended up being a DNF. But that's okay, because not everything is going to be a banger. I ended up DNFing this for 2 reasons. One, this book takes place in Vatican City, and I'm not Catholic, I'm Christian, but the religion that she built in this world, I think, played a lot on just Jesus and the Bible and whatnot, and I didn't like the direction that she went with it. It kind of felt like she was mocking religion to me in a way. She might not have been, but that's how it came across to me. So I didn't like it for that reason. I didn't like how she dealt with religion. I also found out reading some reviews, because I still wanted to kind of know what happened, that apparently there is an open door sex scene in this book. And frankly, the fact that people are starting to put sex scenes in YA books disturbs me. And this is a whole rant and tangent that I could get into that I'm not going to, because we would be here for so long. But all I'm going to say is, while yes, any age can read any genre, the fact that we're promoting having sex to the targeted demographic of 11 to 16-year-olds is crazy to me. Like, come on, think about it. If you were a mom or a dad, do you really want your 11-year-old to be encouraged to be having sex because they read it in a book? It's just gross to me. And again, I could go on such a long tangent for this, so I did end up deciding to DNF Cruel is the Light. The next book that I ended up picking up was Calabasas by R.F. Kuang, and I initially gave this a 4 star, but I think I'm actually going to drop it down to a 3.5. I have been thinking about this a lot, and I just kind of feel like you can split this book up pretty much into 3 parts, right? You have the first third of the book, which is Peter and Alice arriving in hell, which it's more so the underworld, not hell. It's kind of based, like, it's supposed to be a mix of a lot of religions, different ideas of what hell is. But I think the inspiration is predominantly Greek mythology. So pretty much they get down into hell and they're starting to go on their journey. Then you have the second third, which is not so much focused on them in hell. It's more so focused on Alice's struggles in academia, specifically under the professor who she's trying to resurrect. And then you have the last third, which is her now back in hell, which she had been in the hell the whole time, but it was now focused on her being back in hell and her trying to resurrect her professor. I'm so sorry. My son is playing with something down on the ground, and I'm just letting him do it so he's content and happy. That middle third was so boring. I'm just being straight up honest. I could not get more than about 20 pages in without wanting to put it down and going to bed because I was just so bored and I was so tiring. But I wanted to finish it because I like R.F. Kuang's writing and because I thought it had so much potential. And if this whole book was focused on their journey through hell, if there wasn't such a heavy emphasis on the backstory and academia, this would have been an easy 5-star for me. After reading a DNF and then a book that took me forever to get through, I needed a break from fantasy and I decided to jump into Dating and Dragons by Christy Boyce, which was the exact palate cleanser that I needed. I did only end up giving this a 4-star. Between this one and Dungeons and Drama, which these are like standalone, interconnected romances-ish, I think Dungeons and Drama had the better story, but I like that Dating and Dragons was actually more so focused on the D&D campaign, and I think between the two that Logan is the better love interest over Nathan. But both of these are absolutely adorable, and I am obsessed with them. And if she writes any more books in this universe, and honestly any more books in general, I will be checking them out. After I read Dating and Dragons, I jumped into the best book that I read this month, and honestly probably one of my top books of the year, and that was Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. I was obsessed with this. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I was obsessed with reading it. I could not figure out who to trust. Everyone was so tense, and I still feel like everyone is lying, even though we've gotten some reveals. I don't typically read series back to back, but man, if the sequel for this is out, I would have picked it up immediately. I am so excited to read the next one. This was an automatic 5-star for me. And then because I have already strayed a little bit from my TBR this month, I decided to jump into my biggest chonker that I had left on my TBR, and that was House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. I ended up giving this a 4-star. The Crescent City series was such a whirlwind. I loved the first book. The first book was so good. I could not tell you a single thing that happens in the second one. And this book was also really good, but all I will say is Bryce in this book was insufferable. I could not stand her. Anytime her POV showed up in this book, especially when she was in Prythian, oh my god, I was infuriated. But everything else, Lydia, chef's kiss, I love Lydia. Everything else in this book was really good. There were some things that, whatever. I will say this book has officially knocked Sarah J. Maas off of my favorite authors list. I will still buy all of the books that she writes because I've invested too much time in the SJM universe to not read anything else that she comes out with. But I don't think she deserves a spot in my top favorite authors. And then the last book that I picked up this month that I actually have not technically finished yet, but I should be able to finish it before the end of the month. I read this much. I have this much left to go. So I have about 200 pages left. I should be able to finish this before the 31st. Is book 8 of the Ranger's Apprentice series, The Kings of Clonmel. You can look at the spine and see what it says. So this is book 8 of Ranger's Apprentice. I am not going to talk about this one because I actually have another video coming out here pretty soon where I will talk about this book more in depth. I also haven't finished it, so I can't talk about it all that much anyway. But so far, I am enjoying it, and this is probably going to end up being another 3.5, potentially a 4-star. We'll see how it ends up going. Overall, though, that was a pretty good reading month. I mean, yes, I will say I have an average star rating of 3.5 or something like that. So it wasn't as good as it could have been, but out of the 9 books that I had listed for my TBR that I wanted to read for this month, I managed to get through 7 of them. I didn't talk about Shadow of the Gods because I actually read Shadow of the Gods in September, but I only ended up missing 2 books from my TBR this month, which I think is really impressive. So overall, I'm really happy with how this reading month went. I am satisfied with the books that I picked for October, and I'm glad I got to go through this whole TBR. So thank you guys so much for watching this video and for staying tuned alongside of me as I went through and read my October TBR. I'm so excited for the videos that I have planned out for the rest of this year. I'm actually going to do a complete pivot from what I had initially meant to do because I realized November is National Writing Month. And obviously I've been talking about it a little bit here and there. I am in the middle of writing a book. So November is going to be very strongly dedicated towards writing. I am actually going to post daily content for the entire month of November. I'm going to post shorts of me going through National Writing Month and talking about everything that I am going to try to accomplish. I'm really excited. My goal is to try to write 60,000 words, so it's going to be a lot, but I do think it's going to be doable. So November is going to be focused a lot more on writing. There should still be at least one reading vlog in the month of November, maybe two, depending on how much time I have. Again, 60,000 words is a lot to try to cram into 30 days. That's 2,000 words per day that I need to write, but I should be able to do that. So yeah, if you guys are interested in following along in my writing journey, give a subscribe. Like I said, I'm going to be posting daily videos of my writing journey for the entire month of November. So you guys should hopefully be able to be really immersed in this process as I'm going through it as well. So give a like, give a subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. And I am really excited for the next few things that I have planned. So I will see you guys actually starting tomorrow for daily videos for NaNoWriMo. All right, bye.